All right, so in another video, I showed you how I would use ChatGPT to run an introduction for content writing, and then I sort of used and broke apart that whole jibber jabber stuff to make a really high converting introduction. In this video, I'm going to show you blog content writing tutorial based on a client content brief. You might be getting a content brief from a client or a blog topic, and you want to know what the next step is. I will show you what the next step is, but I can't show you the whole process. That is what I teach in my masterclass, writing a B2B $1,000 article. So go ahead and enroll in that if you want the full tutorial on this process, but let's just go and see what my client gave me. All right, so my client gave me this content brief. It gives me the title of what is a podcast and how does it work, one sentence description, the audience, the keyword, key phrase, the word count, internal links I need to add, competitor articles for me to look at, which I don't normally look at competitor articles, but they give me those. And then they actually give me the outline here. I can add my own. I don't have to, but this is based on the editor who went and did all this work. So I do need to hit these points in my content brief. So what I end up doing is I open up a new document and I just go through this process of taking the title. I just go and I copy the title, paste it here, I center it, and then just make it a title. I always check my spacing, and so I add a space after paragraphs is what clients usually like. So I'll do that. And then from here, I will add the content here. So I have this part. Intro doesn't need to be bolded. This is a heading 2. This is a heading 2. And there's a lot of formatting. Add space here. So I'm going to get rid of that and then make sure there's a space here. Enter. Explain that. All right. Explain this. That's heading 2. They do title case. So I do have to make sure that's all title cased. All right. Let's see what else it gives me. Okay. These are all H3s, H2s. So I'm going to give examples. So I need to source examples, popular podcasts. These are brief outlines here, how podcasts work. So she does not want me to go in depth in it because there's no need. Maybe this is under how podcast works. So I will put that as H3s. I'll check and see. Yeah, that's underneath. So those are H3s, how podcast makes money. I did a post on that already. So a condensed version of the article you wrote with the link, explore podcasting with WAP. That's a CTA. And then she wants me to also add some FAQs, which is new because I usually don't add an FAQ section, but she's thinking that this content brief is going to be around 2,500 words. It may or may not. And then to make sure to put the CTA at the bottom here, which is right here. All right, so I have all the information that I need for this, and I have to just make sure to follow what is given to me, okay? When I do my initial research, I sort of pick and choose what I already have. I have lots of examples of podcasts. So for example, I have podcasts from celebrities. I have popular creator podcasts, entrepreneur podcasts. So I have enough here for me to get enough podcasts to talk about it. So I have done the initial research already for this content brief. So I'll probably add like one celebrity, a couple popular creators. I'm definitely going to mention the most popular one, which is Joe Rogan, and the New Heights podcast are the first 2 or the top 3 that can fall under sort of creators here. And then maybe mention something that, like Dark History is a very popular one. So when I'm sourcing the information about this content piece, I will start thinking of an angle about podcasting. What is kind of nice about this content piece is that I already wrote about this topic about how to make money with a podcast. And the angle with that was that it's hard to make money with a podcast, that it's not a lot of people can make money on a podcast. So I sort of had to angle this as this is a nice side hustle, but just realize that it's going to take a lot of work and grit to make your podcast work. And most likely you have to have a large following for it to make it work. For this content brief, I don't see a angle like that. I just have here people who may be considering a podcast but don't really understand what it is pretty general. And so what I can do is think about the ideal audience, which could be someone that just started the content creator journey. So they're just starting. Maybe they have a blog, they're on social media, media, they're growing on TikTok or something like that, and now they want to take a step up. So some people at this point might want to do coaching, they might want to start digital products, they might want to write an ebook, but for this specific type of audience, they're thinking about like, wow, I'm really good with social commentary, with my TikTok videos, I'm really good with YouTube or whatever. I can start a podcast. Why not? Kind of thing. So that's sort of the angle that I'm going to sort of start this. I'm going to give a basic introduction about what podcast is and then some terminology. Oh, and I forgot to reach to that one. Okay. So with this, I grabbed the information by researching general stuff about what a podcast is. I can use ChatGPT to just give me ideas. So like the podcast terminology, I can feed ChatGPT these things and then get some general idea of what it is. I cross-reference that with what is already online just to make sure that is correct, that a podcaster is what people who do podcasts are called, that the host is this, that the episode is that. You know, these are pretty basic that I don't need to cross-reference too much. And then the popular part that he can learn new topics, get to know, she has already told me why they're popular. And then have a subheading here are podcast audio or visual. There, she didn't complete her thought here, but I need to add this as a subheading as you can have audio podcast only, give an example of that, visual podcast as well. So like the New Heights podcast, Joe Rogan, they're on YouTube. They have a visual podcast, right? So many people are leaning towards that to get monetized on YouTube to even grow their podcast and make more money. So those are things like that where I can mention already because I know this stuff, right? So I'm going to have those subtopics. So that's easy for me to write. And then here are the different types. Here is where I can do additional research. Again, I can go and pull out maybe some YouTube videos about different podcasts, people who are talking about podcasts. I know Pat Flynn likes to talk about podcasts because he has a podcast course. So I can go and look at Pat Flynn's YouTube videos about podcasting and just get some information. I do this as I am writing. So as I'm listening, I am also absorbing the information, writing my notes. I'm also going to different sites. So I'm doing a lot of things to gather this information. I usually put this information in this outline. This is my like garbage content piece, right? I'm not going to give this to the client. I'm going to source everything here. I'm going to write it out here. And then I'm going to probably have a new document with the finished piece to give to the client. Now, clients can look at your history. And if a client is adamant about knowing that to make sure that you're not just using AI, for example, they may want you or request that you write the post within this framework. Everything is in here kind of thing. They might request that. So under file, you can just look at the version history. You can see the version history, what I've done already. So a client may have to look at this if they are just sort of like strict, like I don't want any AI, I don't want this, I want to make sure that you're writing the whole thing. I need to know exactly what's going on. You can give them this piece. I haven't had that happen to me. I have clients that either don't care that I use AI, they just want the post. And then I have clients that are okay with using AI, but you have to make sure that the post passes their AI detectors. Okay. And usually those are like originally AI, those are content at scale, those are some tools out there. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. I will run it before I give it to the client. And if I see any discrepancy, I will tell them, look, I ran my content through 5 AI detectors and 3 of them say that it's all AI and these ones don't. So take it as is. Yet I have never had that happen. Every single piece that I write, even if I use aspects of ChatGPT, always come out 98% human, always. As I'm writing it, it varies. So half the post could be 86% AI, it says, even though it's flagging my words from my brain and not flagging the AI sentences, right? So that's interesting to know. So it is very subjective. It's not a valid way for clients to pin our content against what we do, but they do realize, and a lot of them are open to, if you're going to use AI, then, don't use AI for the whole post, and I expect you to add more stuff and it has to come out clean, like mostly human written. And I do. I use AI for some help with finishing a sentence. If I am in the process of writing my sentence and I don't know how to really end it, I'll feed it to ChatGPT to give me some ideas. I'll give it some definitions. What are the definitions? I'll ask for the key points of something that is a long article. I'm using it to assist me in my writing. I may use a phrase or two from that to help me. But overall, it speeds up my process. I'm able to take something like this and write it within 2 or 3 days rather than 4, 5, 6 days, right? So if it can help me speed up my process, get my thoughts on paper faster, then I will use it because it's helping me. So that's how I look at using, if I'm going to use like AI. I don't normally, like, honestly, the posts that I get nowadays are things that I already know. I already know about this stuff. And if I don't, then I can just research it myself, right? Like, I know how to research this term on Google if I need help. I can ask Google this question and see what the answers are, right? I can feed that into Google to see what that's all about, get some ideas, all that stuff. I can definitely do that, but you can also use other things to help. So you might want to start sourcing things on LinkedIn, for example, and maybe you want to ask here, like, hey, is anyone have a scripted fiction podcast? I'd love to feature you in my upcoming article about what a podcast is, right? You can post that on LinkedIn, on Twitter X, and see what you get. You may not get a lot of hits. I did ask a question on my Instagram stories about any bodybuilder people that they follow, and I didn't get a response. And it was on my stories, so I figured maybe I would have more success on Instagram than asking that question on LinkedIn. So it's a hit and miss, but you can at least get it ready and get it out there and ask your audience there, the people that are following you. If that's not the case, then you use Google. So that's how I would structure my blog content. Hopefully that helped you. Make sure to watch this video where I do break down a ChatGPT introduction and rewrite it in a conversational way for content writing. Let me know in the comments below if you found this helpful, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in that video.